Okay, who is this? What is the order? Hopefully you said Tricoptera. These are our caddisflies. They're the ones that build themselves little houses called cases. They're the largest entirely aquatic order. There are 21 families and 1,400 species in North America. We're not going to learn that many. The larvae have distinct sclerotized head, meaning hard, and pronotum. They can have a sclerotized mesonotum and metanotum. These are the names for the 3 different segments in the thorax. So we have head, thorax, abdomen. The first segment of the thorax is always sclerotized in Tricoptera. They make their small houses called cases. And they also have these anal hooks at the tip of their abdomen. That's what they hold on to their case, so you can't pull them out of their case very easily. This is what an adult looks like. They're called the hair-winged insects because if you looked at this wing under a microscope, it would look like it had lots of tiny hairs. Okay, so we're going to learn Hydropsychidae. They're often found not near their case. They tend to have a C-shaped body. They're 13 to 18 millimeters long, and they have hardened plates on all 3 thoracic segments. So the pronotum is hard, the mesonotum is hard, and the metanotum is hard. Okay, that's all we're going to do for caddisflies because they're really hard to tell apart. So this is a very common family, and we're only going to learn one because they can be very, very difficult to tell apart, especially if you can't look at them under a microscope for a virtual lab. All right, so next up, we're going to do these guys. What's the order? This one you should know. This is Coleoptera, so it's a beetle. Both the larvae and adults can be aquatic, but as we know, not all beetles are aquatic insects. Some of them are not. However, there are a lot of them that are. The adults have a hard elytra. They have chewing mouth parts. The elytra is the case covering the wings. So they have filamentous wings folded up underneath here. There are 20 different families that are aquatic. We're going to do 5 of them because they're all very important and fairly distinctive, so you should be able to tell them apart. So the first one is Haliplidae, or the crawling water beetles. So these are aquatic, these are herbivorous, so they feed on algae as adults. And they have a very distinctive shape. They often are in plants or places with lots of aquatic plants, in ponds and streams. They have a body that's convex dorsally, so it's kind of domed. It's broadly oval or boat-shaped with a pointy posterior. So the end of the abdomen comes to a point. They tend to be this color, a brownish yellow with dark spots on their elytra. Their hind cocci have very long, flat, and broad plates, which you can see here. Normally the legs just come out. There are these giant plates that cover up where the legs come out in Haliplidae. So those characters make them pretty distinctive. So they're small. They have these pointy abdomens. They're this kind of round shape. They tend to be reddish brown with black spots, and they have these big plates on their underside. The next family is Gyrinidae. You would be familiar with seeing these from their behavior when you visit ponds and streams. These are the whirligig beetles. So if you see a black beetle swimming around in circles on the water's surface using the surface tension of the water, that is a whirligig beetle or Gyrinidae. They are predaceous. They tend to be in groups, so you tend to see several of them swimming in circles. They're 3 to 16 millimeters, oval, flattened, usually black with a dark kind of metallic green sheen. They have crazy eyes, so they have 2 eyes on top and 2 eyes underneath, which you can see in this picture really well. So they have a compound eye up here, a compound eye up here, and a compound eye down here and one down here. So they have 4 eyes, and that's so they can see in the air and see under the water all at the same time. So they're super protected that way. They're also poisonous, and they're predaceous. So these guys are really tough. They tend to have slender, elongate forelegs, which you can see here and here. That's the other case. But if you saw them out in nature, you would probably know that they're Gyrinidae just by their behavior on the water surface. But if you get to look at them up close, look for a black beetle that has 4 eyes and these kind of legs in the front. Next up is Dyticidae, which is a very large family. It's one that my lab works on. These are the predaceous diving beetles. They're found in most aquatic habitats. They have flattened hind legs with fringed hairs. These are swimming hairs. These guys are really strong swimmers. They look, if you didn't look closely at their eyes, they look a little bit like the whirligig beetles because a lot of them are black. But these guys are underwater and they have these back legs that are for swimming. Their antennae are filiform, meaning there are these long, slender antennae. And these antennae are bigger than the maxillary palps, which are these parts. So this is part of their mouth, and their antenna is longer than that. They're often black with dark yellow patterns on their elytra or pronotal margins. So sometimes they have these cream or yellow stripes that are on the edge. And they have a smooth domed back. They're very streamlined for very strong swimming so they can catch their prey. Hydrophilidae is the water scavenger beetle. They look very similar to Dyticidae if you don't look at them very closely. They can easily be distinguished by their antennae. So the Hydrophilidae, you can see, here's their antenna. You can see they have a clubbed antenna, which means that it gets thicker at the end than if you remember the Dyticidae were long and slender. They didn't have this club. And you'll notice the antennae are shorter than the maxillary palps. So these are maxillary palps. This is part of their mouth. This is their antenna, smaller. They're found in slow-moving water with lots of vegetation. And many of them have a keeled sternum. And so this is the sternum, like your breastbone, in between your ribs. That's what a sternum is. And you can see they have this keel like on a boat. So this big long thing that kind of connects all their legs is called a keel. They can be lots of different sizes, anywhere from 1 to 40 millimeters. So those are the key characters. If you look at the maxillary palps and the antenna, you should be able to tell the Dyticids and the Hydrophilids apart. Okay, next up is Elmidae, or the riffle beetles. These guys are really important indicators of clean water. The person that taught me aquatic entomology, I took a whole class on it, he was a riffle beetle expert, and he literally wrote the chapter with all the keys on beetles for North America. But these are very special because of their status as water quality indicators, and they've been disappearing in a lot of different places because water quality has been decreasing. So they have 2 claws on the end of each leg, and they have long legs, and they have these indentations on their elytra. They're very small, only 1 to 8 millimeters, and they look like something that does not belong in the water. They look like they should be climbing on a plant, but they're going to be found in streams. They like fast-moving, clean water streams. They kind of walk along the bottom. They're not strong swimmers like the Dyticids and Hydrophilids are. They're kind of just awkward looking, and they have these striations, and they have these big claws on the end of their feet.